Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Beckett Keys. If you don't know me, I'm Mr. Scott Evans and I'm the head teacher here. And I've got Mr. Peggs with me this evening as well, who's the head of the sixth form and he's one of our assistant head teachers. We've actually got a third assistant head teacher on the line with us as well. That's Mr. Fenn, who's going to be monitoring the chat for us this evening and helping to present some of your questions a bit later on. I hope you're sitting comfortably. I hope you've got yourself a pen and paper to hopefully make some notes on some of the things that we're going to say this evening. And I hope that our presentation will really help you to understand what makes our sixth form distinctive, what makes our school distinctive. Also help you think about our open evening next week, when we'll actually be opening our school to you and you're able to come on site to see us. We also want to give you an insight into what sort of support we're going to be offering you over the next 8 to 10 months as you go through year 11 and get ready for sixth form. As I've said, there is going to be the opportunity to ask questions this evening. There's a chat function. I think there should be two sort of speech bubbles at the top of your screen. If you click there, you can put your questions in there. They won't appear for anyone else to see. They'll just be private between us and you, and we can't tell who's asking the questions either, so it's all completely anonymous. So no such thing as a silly question anyway at Beckett Keys, but particularly today, just fire away anything that you want us to answer. We'll make sure we tackle those questions. You can put them in as we go along, and Mr. Fenn might even come back to you with some answers if it's something that he can just answer as we go through. Otherwise, in about half an hour's time, we'll turn our attention to tackling your questions. We're going to make sure we're finished in an hour, so hopefully you can stay with us for all of that time. We might even finish in less than an hour, so I hope that works for you. As you probably know, I was the founding head teacher of Beckett Keys. I chose the name, I designed the logo, I chose the uniform, I've selected every single teacher that's joined the school along the way. And another thing I did was choose our motto, which is faith in learning. And this really sums up why I opened the school, partly because as a teacher I've got faith in learning. I believe that learning changes lives, it opens doors, but also because we want to bring faith into learning. I'll say a little bit more about that later on. But I wanted to start with that because really, if you're thinking about choosing Beckett Keys as your sixth form, then the reason to do that, at the heart of it, should be that you're looking for a school that takes faith seriously, that wants to bring faith into learning. A lot of people want to choose our school because it's outstanding. According to Ofsted, we're the only outstanding school in Brentwood, and if you look at our Ofsted inspection, it says that we are outstanding in every single category. We've also been inspected by the Church of England, and again, that inspection is online and says we're outstanding in every category. Our aim is to get even better than we are now. We want to be in the top 5% of schools nationally, and we want to be the highest performing school in Brentwood by any measure. We're ambitious, and we're ambitious for you to achieve your aims and aspirations as well. When I was there starting the school with Mr. Gunn from St. Peter's, we developed 4 distinctive strategies, and we're going to go through these this evening and talk about how they apply to sixth form. Firstly, I want to talk about being a church school. Students who are here at the moment will know that one of our buildings is called the Runcie building. Lord Runcie was the Archbishop of Canterbury, and he said that church schools should nourish Christians in their faith, should encourage those of other faiths and challenge those of no faith. And that is very much what we try and do here at Beckett Keys, and that continues through to sixth form. We want to nourish you if you are a Christian. We want you to feel like this school is a place where your faith is fed, where the things that you believe as a family and personally align with your school experience. You're going to be in the last 2 years of schooling before you go off to university or an apprenticeship. It's a crucial moment in your life to feel like you know who you are, you know what you believe, and you're ready to tackle what life is going to throw at you ahead. It could be that you've got another faith and our school will support you in your faith journey. Or it could be that at this point you still don't know where you stand with faith, and that is fine as well. We're here to challenge that and to help you think about keeping an open mind about faith and exploring matters of spirituality and religion. We make sure that we have times of worship and prayer where those of us that have a faith can celebrate that, and those of us that don't yet or celebrate a different faith will have time to be quiet and to be still and to reflect on these things. I'm not sure who said it. It might have been Mrs. Corse, who's deputy head of the sixth form, but we welcome all who welcome all. And I think that is a good way to look at our approach to our inclusive sixth form. Yes, we're a church school, and yes, we particularly welcome those who have a faith, but we welcome all who welcome all. If you have a positive attitude towards faith, you will find a place here. I'm going to hand over to Mr. Peggs now, who's going to talk about one of our other distinctive strategies that we use as a school. Thank you, Mr. Peggs.
So as Mr. Scott Evans and others set this school up, they were very much aiming for an independent school feel, and that is throughout the whole 7 year groups of this school, and particularly in the sixth form. And you can see one of those elements on the screen in front of you, and that's our really smart and distinctive uniform. It was actually wanted by and designed by the first cohort when we consulted them about how they wanted the sixth form to look and feel back in 2016, before it opened in 2017. And they wanted a smart and comfortable uniform, but also one that could be worn outside of school, maybe for interviews or for jobs. And so simply there is no logo on the uniform apart from the pin badge that you can see a couple of our students wearing there, and that can simply be taken off, and that is a big hit with our students. It also takes the concern out of what to wear each day. I remember going to school as a sixth former thinking, what do I wear today, what do I wear tomorrow, and I wouldn't have to worry about that if I came here. And our students really do take pride in that. They wear it smartly, but they also do like how subtle it is. So I think it's got the best aspects of both of those. We of course have the Justin Welby building, which is the nearest building to Sawyers Hall Lane, and that opened when the sixth form started several years ago. The ground floor is purpose built for the sixth form. It's actually changed design and layout several times, which is one of the examples of how we as a school are always happy to adapt when there are needs to do so. And it really does look good, even on a rainy day with a rainbow over it. And I include that photo on purpose because hopefully you can see the sixth form garden there, and even when the weather isn't so nice, you can see the sun shining on that. So of course, many of our students who are watching this tonight won't have actually seen inside the sixth form area yet because they're not sixth formers. And so over the next couple of weeks, when students are coming maybe to see me for consultations, or certainly next week when you come in for the open evening, do definitely pop your head in there and meet some of our senior prefects and Mrs. Course. The main room in the middle is known as the group work room. Not a very original title, it does what it says on the label, but within that it's a real buzzy atmosphere every period when students are working collaboratively on their projects. There's the sixth form library. We've actually just had donations of almost £2,000 to buy brand new fiction and non-fiction texts for our sixth formers. Indeed, if you are listening to this tonight and you've donated, then thank you very much. There are also many wider reading resources in there, journals for example, and it's worth pointing out that every department area has their own wider reading resources. It's also where we keep the university guides, although these days of course a great deal of that is online. A room that I really like is the sixth form deli. All day, every day, there is food being served by a professional catering team. Students don't have to wait until break or lunch to go up and get served, or to just go and get a coffee and a biscuit from the professional machinery that we have there to make those. There's also a decking area where students can go and sit out there and get on with their work, as they can do in the sixth form garden. And then for those students who a few times a week are going to say, I need to get my head down and finish this essay, do this research, we have a silent study area, which is, it's quite a bland looking room, because actually it's where the students want to be when they just want no distractions and they just want to be able to get on. And they actually, again, our first cohort helped design that. It's worth pointing out at this time as well that the sixth form is open from early in the morning through to late in the evening, and we have many students who stay regularly to complete their work after school, and it's a really nice atmosphere there. There's the John Raw Chapel as well in the sixth form area. This is used for collective worships. It's also used for when we have guest speakers in. We use it for enrichment lessons and for various different moments when students might just want some quiet time to reflect on what they're feeling at the moment. Sixth formers also have their own separate IT room to the rest of the school, and it's worth pointing out as well, they have their own very nice separate toilets too. Another element of the independent school feel is how we like our students to get involved in our community. We have a prefect team of nearly 100 students, so that's nearly 50% of our sixth formers. And of course, we have 6 senior prefects who will be front and centre next week. And actually, they're disappointed they don't get to make a speech to you tonight like they normally would in the hall. So they'll be meeting and greeting you next week, and I know you'll be impressed by them. We also expect our students to volunteer, and we've been speaking to them this week about that because during COVID times that was not possible. So many volunteering opportunities, and we also promote a great deal of student voice. Our sixth formers have their own sixth form council. They're also part of the whole school council, and actually my favourite way of finding out what sixth formers are wanting to ask us about is by them just knocking on my door, Mrs. Course's door. It's always open and they can just share their views at any point. We can't go through all of the aspects that make up our independent school feel right now, so I'm just going to chip into a couple maybe. Firstly, traditions. The tradition that we started early on, Mr. Fenn, who's producing this tonight, was as competitive as anyone, is the House Cup. We probably do more house competitions in the sixth form than we do in the lower school, if I'm honest. And again, I can't mention all of them, but today I was just doing an assembly about some of the events that are coming up, from the small ones such as our weekly general knowledge quiz that all contributes towards the House Cup, through to what I might call medium-sized events such as we're doing Draw Your Tutor in the next couple of weeks, through to where we do a massive netball tournament with both year groups, both genders all playing at once. And then in about a month's time, I'll be running the London Challenge, which is where, and I don't know why I put myself through this every year, where we have 200 students running around London on a big scavenger hunt. In fact, I do know why we do it. It's because our students just want to have fun and always represent the school in a great way. And so they're already looking forward to that now. But the key point is this: you lot who are listening to this now, you'll be our 6th cohort of sixth formers coming through. And I still see you as almost part of an extended founding cohort, because you can start up these traditions and build upon these now and hopefully come back in years to come and enjoy them. Another way in which we really like this independent school feel mantra is by promoting wider aspects of students' character and their development. Now, I can't talk about all of these now, but of course we have a wide extracurricular programme. We work with trusts such as the Sutton Trust to help offer students opportunities that they might not get. And we also, as part of our sixth form enrichment programme, offer our students the opportunity to do a TED Talk of their own, part of the Beckett Keys 6 TED Talks, and you can go onto our website and look at some of those. So that's just a snippet of what we offer as part of an independent school feel, but I hope you can begin to get the idea and perhaps ask questions about others you may have heard of later on. Back to Mr. Scott-Evans.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peggs. So yes, I mean, those of you that know the school well won't be surprised we're talking about our Christian ethos. We're a church school and we take that seriously. You won't be surprised to hear us talking about an independent school feel. We are a state-funded independent school. The next thing we'll talk about, as you know me well, is that we know every student by name. I work incredibly hard to know the name of every single student in the school. Those of you who are at the school now will know that I know your name. Okay, occasionally I forget them here and there, but it's important to me to know the students and to care for them. And my expectation is that every student feels known by their teachers, feels that their needs are being met, and that reaches its climax, its pinnacle at sixth form, when you will be in some of the smallest classes you've ever experienced. You'll be in the smallest tutor groups you've ever known, and you will be students that have been in the school. If you've been with us since Year 7 for a long time, so you've been well established. Those of you that join us new will be reaching out to you and getting to know you and eagerly welcoming you to our school. I mentioned Lord Runcie earlier saying what a church school should do. Recently, the Bishop of Durham put his own spin on that, and he said that he thought church schools should be a combination of an open door and a warm fire. As winter comes, there's something lovely about a warm fire that draws you in. And the Bishop of Durham wanted church schools to be like that, that the Christian ethos would make people feel welcome, like it was something they wanted to come towards. And this idea of open doors and warm fires is something we really embrace in sixth form. Mr. Peggs has already mentioned that his door is always open, Mrs. Corse's door is open. You also have Mrs. Martin, who's a sixth form administrator, who does a lot of pastoral work in the sixth form as well, listening to students and helping them with the things that they need. Never at your time at Beckett Keys will you have felt that you are as able to approach a teacher as you can in the sixth form. Teachers are here for you after school, before school. Students stay late after school studying and going to see teachers who will help them with what they need. It's a real enormous strength of our school and something that our teachers take great pride in. I've mentioned classes are small. It depends on which subject you pick, but your tutor groups are small as well. Tutor groups will average only 22 students in a tutor group, so your tutor will really get to know you exceptionally well. Your relationship with your tutor is your most important relationship. This is someone who's going to guide you through sixth form and make sure that communication is strong with parents. Some people think, oh, when you get to sixth form, really the teachers will just be communicating with the students, but actually that's not the case. Again, the ante is increased. We will be communicating with you at home, possibly even more than we have done up until now, because the stakes are so high. The period of time that you're in sixth form is so short. We've got to make the most of the time that we have. So your tutors get to know you really well and offer you the individual support that you need, particularly around applying for apprenticeships and university places, which we are really expert at making sure we guide you with. All of our tutors will have been sixth form tutors before, will have experience and will know how to guide you through those processes. Something else that we work really hard on in supporting students and really knowing them by name and knowing what they need is our enrichment program. Mr. Peggs and I run the enrichment program, and we're committed to continuing to teach students right the way through sixth form. And we listen to the students and the sorts of things that they want to learn about alongside the rest of their curriculum. So with Mr. Peggs, Year 12 will be doing things about how to be a successful A-level student. Early cohorts told us that this was something that they wanted more of. The style of learning for sixth form is so different. It's like a bit of a culture shock, really. And so Mr. Peggs guides them in how to be successful. Recently, they've been bringing all their folders and revision materials to school. So Mr. Peggs can look at it and think, right, you've only been here for a month, but what are you doing? How are you organising yourself? Are you starting to revise already? And how's that going? That kind of attention to detail in how to study right from the beginning is really important. You are only going to be in sixth form for 27 months. It's going to zoom by, the journey from the end of year 11 to the end of sixth form is 27 months. Those months zoom by, and so we want to make sure we're guiding students and supporting them through that. Another thing students tell us they love to learn about in sixth form is finance, whether that's student loans, whether it's mortgages, whether it's paying rent, whether it's budgeting, whether it's investments. We do some work on that with the students, again, in response to them telling us these are things that we want more information about. Mr. Peggs with Year 13 is also doing sessions with them about health when going on to university, CV writing, interview skills and so on. With me, I continue our journey of faith. So all students continue core religion lessons with me. Again, listening to the sorts of things they want to find out about. I then bring those topics and give them a religious slant, try and show them what the Christian view and what other religions' views are on things, so that they can continue their journey of spirituality regardless of whether they take religion and philosophy at A level or not. So those are just some of the ways in which we make sure that we attend to each student's needs and know them individually. I'm going to hand back to Mr. Peggs, who's going to tell us about the final part of our 4 strategies about having an expert trust involved.
So there are many ways in which the Russell Education Trust are involved with Beckett Keys, and many of you will know that already. But I suppose the most important way with the sixth form is that they have given us their expert advice to help us make sure we're setting up the right courses for our students in our local context. So we do have a very clear traditional route through facilitating A levels, along with our fabulous expressive arts subjects and our technology subjects. You'll actually get the course guide next week. You'll get a physical copy of it alongside various other documents as you come into the Beckett Keys entrance hall. But there is the old version online. What I need to say is that on the sixth form website, the old version will be updated within the next week. The subjects have not changed. The same subjects that are listed in last year's ones are there. Some of the entrance requirements have been tweaked slightly for different reasons, and you'll see those in the course guide that you're given next week. So alongside the Russell Education Trust recommending the courses and helping us set these courses up and advising our teachers on how to run them well, Mrs. Course and I also benefit from a great deal of expertise throughout the Russell Education Trust. For example, whether you're going into employment or university or apprenticeships or even a gap year straight after you've left Beckett Keys, we will always be able to give you good advice in what you need to do to get to your chosen destinations. And if we need to phone up someone within the trust, we will do that and ask them for how we can facilitate whatever it is you want us to organise for you. Again, in this time limit, I can't tell you everything that we do, and I am very proud of what we do, if I'm honest. So it doesn't take a lot for me to tell you everything. So I'm just going to give you a few examples. For example, we really embrace the Unifrog website. It's an excellent tool. I know that students use it lower down the school, and it has a good purpose lower down the school. But actually, in the sixth form, it comes into its own as students are documenting and collating everything that they're doing, and also doing their research for where they want to go to in the future. So students will be coached through how to use that early on in year 12. We make sure students are given every opportunity we can provide to visit various companies, to attend apprenticeship fairs. If they're not going off to university, we work closely with Ford. In fact, Mrs. Course was in a meeting this afternoon where 4 of our year 13 students are being tutored by as many members of the Ford programme as there were students, to get that real personal one-to-one tuition for how to get onto those engineering apprenticeships. We also recommend ways in which gap years can be made the most of. We, as a Christian school, we do have many students who go off to go and do maybe charity-based gap years before heading off to university. And of course, we are, as I keep saying, we're here to do whatever you need us to do. And really, the one rule with anything in the sixth form is don't leave it until too late to ask. A bit like the enrichment programme, if you've got an idea that you want us to do, we will do it. Now, the chances are we might be doing it later on anyway, but as I say, the golden rule is ask for what you want when you need it, and then we can make sure you, as an individual known by name, get it when you want it. Obviously, with the expert trust involved, some people do get it confused with the Russell Group Universities. They are 2 different organisations, but we are also proud of our record of students attending Russell Group Universities. We currently have 3 students in Cambridge as well, that's worth saying, and several applying this year, so fingers crossed their applications in the next few weeks. But we do support everyone, whatever their aspiration. It's not just about those sort of those golden label courses, we make sure that although we have an ambition for a significant proportion of our students to attend Russell Group universities, it isn't all about that. Unlike some sixth forms, we make sure that we use our advisors, our contacts, to be able to help us provide strategic guidance to everyone and anyone who needs different sort of differentiated guidance. We also make sure that we support all of our students through individualized supercurricular activities. So yes, we do have aspirations for our students, but those aspirations are beyond what some sixth forms might be aiming for. It's whatever you want to do, we will help you and get you there. And so it's worth bearing in mind that when I'm talking about some of these things, it's not just about university, it's also about apprenticeships, because they're as competitive as ever to get into these days. So we'll make sure that we assist you with coordinating visits for open days or apprenticeship fairs or work experience as well. We've got students off at work experience tomorrow, in fact. We'll make sure that we get outside speakers in. Again, if you want a certain type of speaker to come in, we'll get them in. And in fact, with the technology we've all discovered over the last year or so, that's easier than ever now. And we'll also coach you for interviews, for apprenticeships, all the way through to Oxbridge. So whatever you need, we will be able to provide it. And if we can't provide it, we're never embarrassed to go and ask for someone else to help provide it, because that's part of being in the Russell Education Trust. So as you can see, there are 4 distinctive strategies, and we now need to turn our attention to what sort of things you need to be thinking about now, next week, and over the next few months. And I'm actually going to start by answering a question that many of you will want to ask me at some point, and that is, how many subjects should I take for my A-levels? And the answer is 3, or at least it is in the vast majority of cases. I know that some schools will start every student off on 4 subjects and then maybe reduce down after a term or 2 terms or even a whole year. We're part of an expert trust, and we firmly believe that is the wrong approach. A-levels are broad, they're deep in what are covered. And actually, if you're spending even half a year studying a subject that you're not going to see through to the end of it, then I don't think it's going to do you any favours in the long term. It's also worth saying, and I'm going to cover some of this shortly, that we're so confident that we'll be giving you the right advice between now and next August, I suppose, on results day, that you won't need to start with sort of subjects as a trial. Now, there are a couple of exceptions to this rule. Certainly those who take further maths might take that as a 4th subject for obvious reasons, and sometimes students do take a 4th subject, but it is an opt-in rather than an exception. And we'll grill you, to be perfectly honest, when you're being interviewed, because actually often students who start thinking about taking 4 subjects, once they realise some of the elements that we will talk about at interview, they quickly change their mind. But then we run programs such as the EPQ. We also have expert advisors from the Trust helping students become enriched in other academic ways that makes up for the 4th subject. Now, in a week's time, you'll be able to come in and you'll be able to ask the experts. And so one of the things I think you need to start doing right now is writing a list of questions that you want to ask teachers and you want to ask students. So as well as the senior prefects being in school next week, we'll also for each subject have a few year 12 students, a few year 13 students. They're ready to answer your questions even. But there's nothing worse than having an opportunity to ask questions and then not really knowing what to ask and regretting it later. Please do make the most of that opportunity. And if, to be honest though, if you do regret it in the future that you didn't ask a certain question, you can always come and see me, and I can then arrange for a teacher or a student to answer those questions. Something else that you need to start doing now is considering possible careers. And you'll notice my underlining of the letter S there, because bit controversial maybe, but I think that any 15-year-old who knows exactly what they want to go into in the future at the age of 15 has probably got a surprise coming in the future. And it's fine to be sat there right now, absolutely fine to be thinking, I don't know what I want to go into in the future. But start doing some research on broad fields, and they could be diverse fields as well, because those are the sorts of conversations we'll be having with you in the future, where you say, I'll pick a couple of examples from there. I might want to go into finance, I might want to go into engineering. And I can sit with you and say, okay, well, how about these 3 subjects as a combination? Because that'll open doors to both of those careers in the future. So do start having those conversations at home, but please don't worry about being too specific just yet. Just give us some ideas when we ask you those questions. Something else you could do is go onto the UCAS website. It's a really good website, and the search tool on there is excellent. If you type in any type of degree, any type of career, you'll be able to see what A-levels universities are after. Now, actually, with our route, with our facilitating subjects, there various combinations are applicable for most courses, but obviously if you're looking at something like medicine or engineering, there would be certain subjects that you'd need to take. And again, we'll advise you when we meet with you in the next few events that we run, but at the same time, if you can have done some of that research, that's only going to help you. In a similar vein, the government website and other apprenticeship websites for helping you understand what sort of subjects you want to take for certain types of apprenticeships are always very valuable. And knowing what you want to do in the future is part of the information we need, but our job is then to provide you with a lot more information to help you unlock this future. And so next week, as we say, you need to come in with a list of questions to ask, knowing which subjects you want to target during the time you're here, and make sure that you are thinking about what you want to do in the future, and that will help frame your questions now. It's worth saying, of course, at this point, that if you have not yet booked a ticket for next week on Eventbrite, please do so. So these are the two initial events that we're running, and you should be well aware of these by now. Hopefully the first one you're aware you're taking part in. And then in November and December, for all students who want to come here in the future, they'll all get the opportunity to meet with a member of the senior leadership team, including Mrs. Course. With that, we'll be doing a 15-minute meeting during the school day if you're currently at Beckett Keys, or if you're at another school, after school one day, where you'll come in and you'll get to ask us further questions about the school, and we'll get to ask you questions to get to know you, and then we'll be able to help push you in the right direction with the subjects you might want to choose in the future and other similar approaches. Now, something I did think of earlier, which has tripped us up in the past, so I'm going to say it now, and it applies to a few of the important dates coming up, is that if you're currently at a different school and you think that any of these dates might clash with, say, mock exams, for example, or even when we run an evening event, it could clash with a parents' evening, please do drop me an email via office@beckettkeys.org, even if you're not quite sure, because we'd rather know. We can then contact the school and find out, and that will just mean that you're not missing out on any of these opportunities. For example, on Monday the 10th of January, we're currently planning to run sixth former for a day. That works in our school calendar. But if it does not work in your school's calendar and several schools' calendars, then we might have to change that date, and that's absolutely fine, because we'd rather give you the opportunity to come in and experience some of these subjects, also meet students at the subject fair that will also be run on that day, and attend a couple of talks. It's too important an opportunity to miss out, and so if we need to adapt and change the date, we will do so. This date is important, that you need to apply before this date to be guaranteed an interview, and interviews will start from Monday the 21st of February. Now, please don't worry if you don't get invited to one straight away. It's not a rank order. There's nothing to worry about missing out on, but obviously it takes a bit of time to get the process through. So we'll do the first ones 10 days after the closing date, but you might not get invited to one for 4, 5, 6 weeks. Please don't worry. You'll get invited if you've applied by the deadline. And again, if it clashes with something important in your life, we can be flexible and help rearrange it. We'll then offer you a place in the sixth form in around about May, and we then have two important dates for your diary right now, just after your GCSE exams. These are 2 days in which you come in. Basically, we see it as your first 2 days in the sixth form, where you come in, you do some team building games, you learn more about the sixth form, and we also prepare you for life in the sixth form by giving you things to get organised over the summer. And it really is beneficial to all students, both because it breeds that sense of community, and also because you can hit the ground running in September. And then we'll see you all hopefully on GCSE results day, when we'll be able to run our admissions programme and enrol you into the sixth form. So we've covered a lot, and we hope that you have learned a lot, but now it's your chance to ask questions via Mr. Fenn, and I'm going to hand back over to Mr. Scott Evans so that he can lead on this section. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peggs. So I'm sure there's lots of things that you would like to find out about, so hopefully you've been typing your questions in as we've been going this evening, and Mr. Fenn is there to have a look for us. Mr. Fenn will read out questions. We'll get through as many as we can before we finish. So, Mr. Fenn, what do you think? Where should we start tonight?
Hello. Let's start with universities.
Yeah.
So, is the Russell Education Trust linked in any way to Russell Group universities?
No, as Mr. Peggs said, that's often what people wonder. But when they chose the name, the Russell Education Trust, part of the reason of choosing that was because they wanted to help families from the widest possible range of backgrounds get places in Russell Group universities. As Mr. Peggs said, Russell Group universities are not the be-all and end-all. If you look at the list of universities, there are lots of great universities missing from the list. I think Mr. Fenn went to Loughborough, which is a highly rated university that I don't think is in the Russell Group, but would be one of those universities that people would aspire to. I don't think anyone should get too hung up on Russell Group as an elite group of universities, but what I think you should get hung up on is aspiring to be the best that you can be. And the Russell Group view, the Russell Education Trust view, is that we aim for the very best universities that we can, and that there can be families who, from a variety of different backgrounds, don't know all the little ins and outs, the secret things that you need to know that can help you open those particular doors. And I think that applies particularly to Oxbridge, medicine, veterinary science, things like that. And helping students from a wide range of backgrounds get into those universities is something that the Russell Education Trust do excel at.
Great, thank you. What happens if you don't get your predicted grades at GCSE?
That's an interesting question. So, I mean, the key thing is about getting the grades that you need to get into your destination of choice. If your destination of choice is Beckett Keys, then you will need 8 GCSEs at grade 4 or above. You will need a 5 in English and Maths, and you will need the entry requirements for the courses that you need that you want to take. And as Mr. Peggs said, our course guide will be coming out next week. This is last year's one, but in it you will see for each subject what the entrance requirements are. So here I've opened it up on music, and it says you would need a grade 6 in music, and some also some grades on ABRSM for your instrument of choice. So you look at the course guide and you need those grades. So I'm not quite sure how that links to predicted grades. Maybe the person who asked it could come back to me. But really, yes, I suppose it's looking at your target grades and thinking, what's the likelihood of me getting these grades for these particular subjects?
And I might just add in there as well, Mr. Fenn, if it's okay. Part of the reason we do the November consultations, then we do interviews, and also we have other opportunities when parents can just get in contact with us. In fact, for external students, there's also a sixth form application assistance day that we run just before the final deadline, is so that we can give different advice at different times depending upon progress students are making. And even on the results day, if students have applied to do a couple of courses that they don't have the grades to get onto, you'll be able to meet with a member of the senior team and will advise you on courses that you could do as an alternative. We actually see your GCSE results the day before, and something that we do both for GCSE students and for A-level students going to university is we spend as a senior team hours and hours working out which students haven't quite achieved the grades they needed for their plan A, so how can we help them get their plan B. Obviously there might be times when we say, do you know what, you're better off because you can't do that subject here, but you could do it, say, as a BTEC at college. With a heavy heart, we will say please do leave, because we would hate for, from our own personal point of view, we don't want that to happen. But if it's the best thing for you as an individual, then that's what we'd recommend.
Okay, I'm not sure whether that quite answers their question, so maybe they can come back to us in the chat. Okay, Mr. Fenn, do you want to try another one?
Yeah, got another one about sort of results and results day. What if a student is abroad on results day or admission days? How does that work?
Yeah, good question. That does happen. People take holidays, and that's fine. What you do is first of all, you need someone to be picking up your results for you, and then you would speak to us on the phone. So hopefully we could connect with you on the phone on the day and discuss that with you. Alternatively, we could do it via email, so we can look at your results, you can look at what you want to do, and we would organise it that way. That's easily overcome. I guess if you are in a country a long way away, there could be a time difference which could be tricky, but we will know what courses you want to do, we'll know what your backup choices would be. So it's really important that you have given us all that information as we work through that process, so we can kind of support you even though you're overseas at that time.
Just some feedback on the previous question. Yes, that explained it.
Oh, great. Thank you. Whoever you are, thank you very much.
Why do we not offer A-level law anymore?
That's a good question. Mr. Peggs, I think, would be good for that one.
Well, actually, we have never offered A-level law. For a couple of years, we offered BTEC law. But then again, because of our local context, we don't offer as many BTECs as we used to, and there are good reasons for that. But actually, law is one of those subjects that I don't really understand why there is an A-level in it, because universities their law departments don't want you to have studied A-level law. They want you to have studied a broader range of subjects, potentially history, economics, literature, maybe religion and philosophy, maybe politics, but also maybe even a science. What they want to see is that you've got a wide variety of transferable skills, and then they want to develop those transferable skills into what the different aspects of law are at university. So it isn't a subject that universities actually want you to do. And I mean, the proof of the pudding there is that our head boy from last year has gone off to read law at Cambridge with, I believe, PE, and I'm going to embarrass myself by not PE, history and
biology.
Thank you, Mr. Scott Evans. PE, biology and history, and he's gone off to read law at Cambridge.
I hope that helps answer that question.
Another question about subjects. Does the school do AS levels?
No, that's a good question. No, we don't do AS levels. We just do A levels. There used to be a time where students did AS levels in lower sixth, and then they would top that up with what's called an A2 in upper sixth. But the AS levels and the A2s have been decoupled now. They don't link together, and so it doesn't make sense for students to spend a great deal of time studying AS and then finding it hasn't done enough to support them with A2. So we spend the full 2 years concentrating on studying for the A level. That works really well here at Beckett Keys, and in fact most schools now won't do AS levels.
Thank you. I've got a comment regarding the A-level law question. A parent's just written in to say that he's a qualified solicitor and he didn't study law at A-level. It's never been an issue. Thank you for that.
Thank you for that.
Another question about subjects. Is it possible to take A-levels in subjects you haven't studied previously, for example, politics or psychology?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, that's where elements such as sixth form for a day, the bridging work we set over the summer to keep your brain engaged, but also to give you a head start in September, and other elements come into their own. We offer several subjects that students from Beckett Keys have never studied previously, including computer science, for example, this year. It isn't, there could be elements where you need to do a bit of catch-up work, but that's something that we're here to help you with, both before you start and once you've begun.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Beggs. I'd just like to say a word on that as well. Often people feel like they want to try something new for sixth form. Psychology is hugely popular across the country, partly because it's a great subject, but also partly because it's new and exciting. All I would say is just a word of caution. When you're getting to year 11, you have studied subjects for 11 years. You are really strong at certain subjects. Don't always be tempted by what's shiny and new. If you really enjoy a subject and you're really succeeding at it, probably is a good idea to carry on with it at A level. So that's just a bit of advice that I would give. Don't always assume that something new that you haven't done before is going to be rewarding and exciting. Look at what you're already enjoying and good at.
Thank you. Another question around subjects. What happens if a course is oversubscribed?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that can happen. And as Beckett Keys continues to become more and more a destination of choice, that is becoming more of a challenge for us. One thing that we can do is put on another class. And so if we can see at sixth former for a day, if we can see at our different events and interviews that there's a high demand for a particular subject, we can add another class. But let's say we can see history is going to be really popular. We put on 2 classes and then both of those classes are full. We would then apply our admissions criteria. So you can see our admissions criteria on the website, and you can see where you would come in that admissions criteria. So for example, Beckett Keys students have an advantage in that, as you would expect. Families who have a church reference, and that could be for the parents or for the student, regular attendance at church, have an advantage. And then it's done on distance. And so we are starting to get to that point now where we have to rank students for certain subjects, and we have to tell some students that unfortunately they're not going to get their number 1 choice, and then we guide them towards a backup choice instead. Is that okay, Mr. Peggs? Yeah.
And sorry, I'm just going to add on there. That's why it's really important when you come to the November consultations. It's important that you have a decent idea of the subjects you're interested in. What we'll do is we'll actually ask you, what are your first 3 subject choices? But then we might ask you for a 4th and a 5th. And so it is important to have a rank order as you sit there. And that might change in a month or 2, but that does help. Mr. Fenn does our timetabling. Mr. Scott Evans appoints every member of staff. They can then work together with that data to see where we might need additional classes. And so that's the value there.
Yeah.
I'll do a couple of quick ones. Do we need to attend the open evening in uniform?
Do you need to attend the open evening in uniform? No, you don't. You're quite welcome to if you want to, but no, students come in whatever they wish to wear.
Thank you. Has the course guide on the website been updated yet?
No, thank you for asking. Yes, so the course guide that's on the website is last year's course guide. That will be updated for next week when we release our new course guide at the open event.
We've had several questions about entry requirements and if someone falls just short. Can you just clarify what you said earlier?
Yes, so the entrance requirements are in the course guide that you will be able to see, and where students fall, short, we then look at what their backup plans are. So there will be other subjects that perhaps have slightly lower entry requirements that they could look at, but the school does stick firmly to its entrance requirements, and that's not just because we're being mean. That is because those entry requirements are there to help you know whether you're going to be successful in that subject. You might think, but I really love this subject, I really want to be in that subject, but we know the way we teach that course, we know the pace that we move at, we know the standard of the other students that are in that course, and it's important to get you into the right courses. So the grade boundaries are there to help you. Thank you.
A question around subjects that clash and subjects that don't work. When will students know the timetable subjects? I can probably answer that one myself.
You'd be good at answering that one, Mr. Fenn. So yeah, we'll all listen to you for a minute.
Yeah. So I write the timetable, and what we always try and do at this school is we try and seek the student information first before solidifying the option blocks. Not every school does that, and that is why the November consultations and the application forms and all of those sort of things that we put in place become really important, because that is where we take our information from in order to try our best to make sure that as many students as possible get their first choice combinations.
And I might just add to that, Mr. Fenn. Obviously, Mr. Fenn is a fabulous guy and great at his timetabling job, but even he can't fit square pegs in round holes on occasions. And so if you are one of the 6 or 7 students who your first choice combination isn't possible for, then then that's when I will invite you and your parents to meet with me over Teams on a few occasions, not just once or twice, but several occasions, or even come in for a few different meetings to give you advice. And it's rare that actually the timetabling problem and the option blocks cause a real road blockage. There's often a different way that can get you to your destination that's just as effective.
Yeah. But on that, there are a couple of subjects you can't do together, and we say that right from the off in the course guide. You can't do economics and business studies, and you can't do sociology and psychology. So there are a couple that just we wouldn't do together. That's more about us giving you good advice about the subjects that you choose and keeping doors open for later on, rather than timetabling, but it is something to bear in mind.
At the moment, I've only got 2 questions remaining, so if you do have any more questions, please put them in the chat. What is the largest class size that we currently have?
So I think the largest class size we have is probably psychology, which might be 23.
Yeah, 22, 23.
Yeah, I think that would be the largest class size that we would have. And some of our class sizes are incredibly small. We run one subject at the moment which only has 1 student in it. My promise to you is that if you have studied a subject with us at Beckett Keys, that you will be able to do that at 6th form, even if you are the only student doing it, and we will pay for you to have one-to-one tuition for 2 years. So that is our promise. If you've been busy studying a subject, even a minority subject like Mandarin, if you've been studying that and you want to do it at A level, we will run it.
A sort of follow-on question from the question earlier about if you're away in the summer holidays and you can't pick up your results, is it possible for results to be emailed to the parent if no one's able to pick it up?
Yes, that's fine. So that's the sort of thing that we will be arranging with our Year 11s much nearer the time. Our exams officer will give you that option, and you can ask for that to be done.
Thank you. And the final one that I've got, I think, is if my child is a bit behind in Year 11 at Beckett Keys, will there be specific intervention to help them get onto the 6th form choices that they choose?
That's a great question. We did cover that, I think, in our Year 11 talk last week. I'm still editing the video for that, and we'll get that up online so you can watch that if you missed it. And that video talks very carefully through the kind of interventions we offer for Year 11. The key message from that presentation is the best intervention we offer is the classroom teaching you get day in, day out, working hard in those lessons, completing your homework. That is the best intervention. We also offer interventions period 7 after school and in the holidays, and students will be invited to those if we can see that they need particular areas of things to be retaught to help them reach their potential. So please do watch that video again and look at some of the ways in which we will be supporting students through Year 11 when it comes out.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for your questions. As Mr. Peggs said, bring more questions next week. The whole school will be open. We'll have staff, subject specialists for every A level that we're going to be offering. We'll have members of the Russell Education Trust here that you can speak to. Mr. Peggs and I will be available. 6th formers will be available. So you know what it's like. Normally you hang up and then you think of all the other questions that you wanted to ask. Well, just make a note of them and bring them along next week. Also bring friends along, maybe other people that you know that you think would enjoy what Beckett Keys offers. The distinctive Christian ethos that we offer at 6th form is very special, and if you know other families that would appreciate that opportunity, do bring them along. We've given out postcards, we've got more here that you can use. Forward the advert that we've got on Facebook and so on, so that we can have a really good evening next week and meet lots of people who can come and join our 6th form. Okay, thanks a lot. That's it for tonight. So I'll let you log off now, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.